How are you? Good evening and welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Ulysses Town Board. It is January 28th, 2025, and I will call this meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. May we please have a roll call?
You may. Ms. Bouchard.
Present.
Ms. Olson.
Present.
Ms. Weatherby.
Present.
Mr. Boggs.
Present.
Thank you.
Mr. Goldman is excused from this meeting. Let's see, approval of the meeting agenda. I need to make a couple changes. Do you have that copy printed out of the shared services agreement? Do you have, is that easy for you to send to the printer?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So Scott is not able to attend to do a DPW update. So I'm sure everybody out in this area knows we got hit with some weather this morning and he's got staff out sick. And it was looking like we were going to have a possibility of snow showers again this evening. It doesn't look like they're necessarily happening until a little bit later. But we are going to reschedule him. So no update there. But under old business, I'd like to add in a highway shared service agreement. We approved a version of it at our organizational meeting, but there was a date typo in it. And so we need to update it with the start date effective December 2024. So it should be straightforward other than that. So if the board's amenable, I'd like to add that as item old business 5C. Does anybody else need any alterations to the agenda as otherwise amended? Okay, accept a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Move to approve as amended.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that brings us to privilege of the floor. I go back and forth in person and then online. Anyone wishing to address the town board can have up to 3 minutes. Is there anybody in person who wishes to address us?
Yes, okay, just in the nick of time. Okay. I have my pulled up this year. All right, great. So do I stand here or what am I considering?
Stand wherever you'd like.
All right, I could sit. So I'm Yana Hexter and I live on the Jacksonville Road in the town of Ulysses. And I have 2 petitions. Caitlin knows about this. I also spoke with Scott, the highway department. So I went to a presentation that Fred Bond did in November about the plans for the future for the plot. And in it, he said that there were 800,000 visitors to Gigantic this year. And given the rate of growth, it looks like there'll be 1 million and probably by 2026, if not 2027. And so it made me think, you know, much as it's lovely to have visitors come and spend money and stay here, that want to keep the area safe for everybody. And so to do a comprehensive study of all of the roads that cross the Black Diamond Trail, so that maybe there could be some speed bumps or some traffic calming, but then also look at the area around where the new parking lot's going to be on Gorge Road, which happens to be just around the corner from my house, which is why I was thinking about it. And also when I spoke to Scott, we talked about the intersection at Agard Road and Jacksonville Road, where there has been deadly accidents because cars go so fast. And I know from living right where I do on Jacksonville, where that blind hill is from the old parking lot, the cars like put their gas on to go up that hill and then they just flatline it straight to 96. And so Scott suggested having 2 petitions, one for the area right around the new parking lot. Also, Fred Bond said that the long-term plan is to have an electric bus that would do a loop around from down at the lakefront up to the overlook, around to the new parking lot on Gorge and then down the hill again, much like they have at Watkins Glen. So I did one petition to see if there could be traffic calming in that loop and also in the with the approaches to that loop for people that are parking. And then he suggested separating out another one for all of the roads that cross the Black Diamond Trail. And my thinking was, instead of just having each road come and ask for a traffic study, which inevitably will happen, that maybe you could think about it more holistically, and that might be more sensible. So Nancy helped, and I've got 40 signatures for one and I think 25 signatures for the other. And so that's what I wanted to ask, if you would consider. I understand from Caitlin that you then would have to ask the DOT, and then it's up to them what kind of study they do, so.
Thank you. Good timing.
Right.
So it goes, the procedures, the next goes to our highway superintendent for review. And then based on his recommendation, it goes to the town board. From the town board, if it's approved, it goes to the county highway department. And from there to state DOT.
Okay.
So state DOT is telling us it's been between 12 and 18 months, Carissa, historically, for any feedback. Yeah, so that's the process. So happy to take your petition, leave it with us, and we'll start the process on that.
Right, and I did a map for one of them. I didn't get a chance to do a map for the other one, so I'm thinking when I come pay my taxes in a couple of days, maybe I could bring my map and you could stick it on. And I've shown, Scott has seen the petition, so he supportive of it. Okay, all right, so I'll put this and I'll just leave it on.
Perfect.
Great, okay.
Thank
And
you
as I
for-
say, if there's any changes or something, just let me know, so.
Sure. Thank you very much. We'll make sure you know when it's coming before the town board again.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, the other thing I put in the petition, which hopefully they would notice, is there's no point coming to do a traffic study in January. You know, like, we have to be in the summer, so I guess if probably this summer, it might have to be next summer, so.
That's something that get pulled into the comp plan too.
Sorry, say that again.
Is that something like a recommendation for the traffic study could be pulled into the comp plan?
The traffic study is done by DOT. That's part of their assessment. They basically determine how people are driving to determine if people are speeding in the zone. And also they look at the width of the road as part of their calculations. So,
Some other stuff too, I think, like
yeah. And they're-
accidents and
Yeah,
Line of
how
sight.
curvy the road is and.
yeah.
Gorge Road, somebody pointed out to me yesterday, Gorge Road doesn't have a line on it. And it's quite narrow, which maybe is why it doesn't have a line.
That's not right.
Okay.
So the
So
fun
town road.
factoid is town roads don't have lines on them, county roads do.
Okay, all right.
So that's how you can tell whether or not, although if it's a faded yellow line, it's still the county's problem, not ours. So it just means it hasn't been repainted, restriped. So
I don't know if I can add something now or if I have to do the next.
next, sorry, have to go to the next round. I'm gonna see if there's anybody, we'll make sure everybody has a chance to speak. Is there anybody online who wishes to address the town board?
I'm just trying to go look at the microphone.
Okay. Nancy, please go ahead.
Okay, so I'm Nancy Cusmano, 5011 Du Bois Road. The thing I would add is that because that new lot is going to be a pay lot. I suspect that people are not going to want to pay. And they're going to be pushed out into those other crossroads and park at those other crossroads of Black Diamond Trail. And some of them, like Craft Road, have really big parking areas, but some of them, like Perry City, has hardly any. And people park half on the road, they block, there's a couple of driveways there that get blocked frequently enough. They park right in front of the access gates, the emergency access gates, frequently.
Mhm.
So that's not something that the DOT, they're not gonna monitor the park crossings, but all those crossings are gonna get more activity, I think. So just one more, something to think about.
Thank you. Well, we can look into potential for no parking signs. We can't control anything that's on state land, so like the actual access, but on roads themselves.
Even requesting the speed limit to be lowered
Mhm.
would be huge,
Mhm.
especially on Fair City.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody online who wishes to address the town board? Is there anybody else in person who wishes to address the town board? Okay, thank you very much. Then we will move on to our first item of old business. Introducing a local law amending chapter 174 regarding tax exemptions for veterans, seniors, and disabled citizens, and scheduling a public hearing. Back in, I believe it was the meeting in December, I shared with the board that there was Tompkins County had adjusted their rates for the first time, since the mid-2000s for the exemptions for seniors and disabled individuals and veterans. And we were given the opportunity to do that as well. In the packet, I've provided a memo from Jay Franklin. The financial impact of doing this is very marginal for anybody in the town in terms of the tax burden being shifted. It honestly doesn't have a huge impact on the number of households that would be impacted. But raising the amount of money that a household can have in order to qualify for the exemptions, to me seems it was something I was personally supportive of. I don't know when again we'll have, I mean, we could choose not to do it now. We've been created this window or this opening to do it. But to me, it didn't seem like it was any reason not to do it. Because it might be many, many years before they can get raised again. And the threshold is not very high.
And it's been a while since they've been.
It's been almost 20 years.
20 years.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Do you see much of that in your business?
I had one client who
Yeah.
had a senior exemption. He didn't pay very much in property tax. But, yeah,
Yeah, it's so this is, the board was amenable to considering it when I broached it before. What this would do is allow us to take it to public hearing, see if the public has any thoughts on it. The amount of the exemptions is outlined in the local law. That's in the attachment here, and the percentages are included as well. So if the board feels comfortable, we can go ahead and schedule a public hearing for our next meeting. It seems to me appropriate to do.
yeah, I would support that.
I do too.
I looked at the numbers and they seem to be kind of in line with, like inflation since over the past 20 years, so.
I believe that this would impact 2 additional households for the seniors exemption. So again, that's not passing much of a burden on to the rest of the taxpayers and would hopefully be helpful. And what I found was interesting, it's based on the entire household. It's not based on the owner themselves. So if you have a couple or that was triggered.
Okay.
So, okay, well, then I will move the resolution introducing the proposed law and scheduling the public hearing in your packet. Scheduling the public hearing for February 11th, 2025 at 7 p.m.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Thank you. And I would say that in addition to this, the goal is to have this, anything that is passed into local law before March 1st will impact people's 2026 taxes. We could still pass it after March 1st, but it wouldn't then impact their taxes until 2027.
Okay.
That's why the March 1st push. So that's it. Okay, nice third update from Roxanne, and please welcome Chris also from CCE. Thank you for being here, and Jerry.
You want me to come up there? So
Sure. No, but give you the podium.
I don't know if I think that, but. Yeah, sorry that
Scott was gonna be here originally, so. Because you had thought this was a good time for that, but I think it's still worth doing now. So I just have a few slides here. So the first one is just a summary of the major NYSERDA Clean Energy Communities Program actions that's been taken by the town of Ulysses. And these have helped result in a recent grant awards totaling $160,000. So we've installed solar panels on the town hall and town barn roofs via a lease agreement with Solar Liberty. They went online March 2013. The lease ends January 2026. The annual generating capacity that was estimated when they were installed was 23,560 kilowatt hours for the barn and 20,176 for the town hall. And I have a little bit more on that later. We've continuously subscribed to a New York State documented 100% renewable energy electricity supplier since 2019. We've installed air source heat pumps and energy recovery ventilation system and LED lighting in the town hall. That was completed, and we removed natural gas heating as of November 2020. It was funded by a previous CEC grant award of $100,000. And it resulted in estimated annual greenhouse gas emissions reductions of 29% for this building. So that got us quite a bit of points towards this most recent grant. And we completed a benchmarking, which is a tracking and reporting of annual energy use in municipal buildings. We use data from 2022 and 2023, so after the pandemic. And we also, by doing that, qualified for a no-cost building energy study, which is currently proceeding for the town highway barn. So the energy benchmarking 2022 and 23, out of that, I just wanted to point out one thing. I certainly can, talk about other things later as people want to know, but I'm just showing the net amount of electricity billed annually. This represents the amount of electricity that we purchased on an annual average for those 2 years above the solar that's generated and used on site. And a negative number indicates that more electricity was generated on average over that time period than consumed. So the town barn and the solar panels especially are doing a good job. The town hall uses, I was interested, it's a fair amount of electricity that the town hall is using, and I was almost thinking it's too bad I didn't look at this earlier, and it might have made more sense to do the building energy study on the town hall and see if there's ways that we could still cut that more, but we can think about that for the future anyway. And so now the details of the solar installations, because this relates to the upcoming grant. We have a lease from Solar Liberty. It was signed in December 2011, I mean, so that's the term is up in January 2026, 180 months later. The panels weren't installed and fully online until March 1st of 2023. The town can negotiate terms for a new lease for purchase of the panels, or we can have the panels removed at Solar Liberty's cost. The annual production estimates from the lease documents, as I think I said originally, the town hall is 20,000, just over 20,000 kilowatt hours a year, and the town highway barn is 23,500 kilowatt hours. And I just over there, that little chart with the yellow, I'm just showing that when they put forward the proposal for the panels, they made an estimate for each month of how much kilowatt hours would be generated, and I'm just showing it for the highway barn. We have it for the town as well. And so we have data from the solar meter readings on the production of the solar panels. And these are different multi-year data and averages. So for the town hall, we have a lot of data monthly, almost from the beginning of the install to now. There was a gap during COVID and a problem with the inverters for just a little while. Anyway, the town hall is operating at a 91% efficiency relative to what they were when they were installed, predicted to be, and the town barn is operating at 102, so plus or minus 100%
Get better
efficiency.
instead of getting worse.
Yeah, well, there's error in there, but at any rate, they're operating well according to this data that we have. And I just have down there a note that solar panels typically decline in efficiency 0.5 to 1% per year. So, and these panels they were installed at the end of 2012. So they're 13 years old right now. Okay, so then we have now $100,000 NYSERDA grant. We applied to put 25 kilowatts of solar installation additional in. And I just had in the quote there is just what we had written in the grant. We received approval to move forward with developing a detailed project proposal in December. That's the wrong date, sorry. The kickoff meeting for the project for NYSERDA was on January 3rd. And in that we learned that NYSERDA needs a detailed plan to specify one site. We had put, just to cover all our bases in the application, that we might put it on the town hall roof and take off the old panels. We might put it on the town barn. We might do ground mount. And to look at the options that are associated with the Solar Liberty lease. So they need, in order for us to go forward, a specific site and an installed capacity. And if we want to think about storage, of which we proposed and is a nice idea to think about also. And so the project manager at Teresa's probing of, well, what would you think, when do you think you want to know this? Gave a target deadline of March 1st to work through specifics and update the proposal on the web portal, though there's some flexibility in that. So that's where we are with that. And so on this last one, I just have based on the analysis of all this data and talking with others, I'm suggesting a course of action for the town board to consider with regard to this grant, developing a proposal, which is to do a ground mount installation at the town barn site with perhaps 20 kilowatts of capacity and then some barns battery storage. We could probably afford up to 24 or 25 with the 100,000 was the estimate that we made when we did the proposal. And so then I just have a list of the rationales that at least I see from this data and from talking with others. The first is that there's no additional technical data beyond what we've collected that will meaningfully inform a decision relating to keeping or removing the current panels. We can continue taking detailed readings of the panel performance so that during the next months, as we find out what options Solar Liberty might be offering, we can inform a cost-benefit analysis as to which option we might choose. Removal if it's not satisfactory, a lease extension or a purchase if it seems like it's worth it to us financially, based on what we estimate we're going to save by generating it, even with some decrease in efficiency. Leaving up our current panels through the end of the lease, 12/31 of this year, and installing 20 kilowatt hours more generation in this same year can cover more than half the purchased electricity need for our combined buildings demand, assuming that the system that we had it installed and it came online by June, so we had half the year, that would generate about almost 14,000 kilowatt hours, looking at our current panel performance at that same site, the town barn. There's no obvious advantage to waiting months to hear what Solar Liberty offers, because at the worst, if the panels are removed, then we would use this grant to replace 20 to 24 kilowatt hours of generation, which, depending on which building we want to put it on, what can fit. But instead, we can start 6 months earlier by moving forward with ground mount now. There's no obvious advantage to using the grant to install new rooftop panels versus installing ground mount, since there's plenty of available level space at the town barns, and the panel orientation can be well optimized because of that. Scott and I walked that site and did some measurements when we were developing the proposal initially, and he said there's so much here and we don't use it, and it would be fine to use it for that. And lastly, I think doing some battery storage would give storm resilience, and it buffers the town better from erroneous billing and crediting of the remote net metering with NICEAG, which is a problem. And it also gives capability to reduce the peak demand charge, which would add cost savings, which could actually be significant if we managed when we use the storage well. So, and I don't know, Chris is our CEC coordinator who I've worked closely with on this through the whole thing, is online, and so might have some input, or Jerry Sheng, who also works on it. And if any questions, I mean,
Or just the board members, do you have any questions?
pardon?
I was asking the board if they
Oh,
had any.
I didn't
questions.
know if Chris wanted to say anything.
Just, yeah, that, from everything I can see reviewing the generation data that we've got, it does look like the panels are performing at, I guess 102% efficiency, which, I wouldn't have necessarily expected, but they're definitely producing, both like on the right curve and also at the right levels that Solar Liberty predicted that we would expect to see from panels this old. The NICEAG bills this kind of thing kind of odd in a way that doesn't necessarily reflect the actual generation figures coming off of the panels. So it's a little bit harder to just go off the NICEAG generation figures on the monthly bills. But pulling those out and looking at them too, it looks like their curve is, again, roughly where you'd want it to be based on the specs that Solar Liberty had in their lease there. So they're, yeah, again, sort of as far as we could tell, there isn't really anything, there's certainly not anything wrong with the panels as far as we can tell. And there's sort of no reason to think that they wouldn't hold at that level, you know, barring some kind of, I don't know. So that's right. That's what I can offer there. Just like, yeah, having reviewed some of the benchmarking data as we put it in, we're able to spit it back out. It looks like everything's kind of firing fine.
I can sit down and then if you have questions, I can answer them from there.
Chris, can you hear me?
Yep.
What are you typically seeing the lease companies do at end of contract periods?
So I mean, unfortunately, y'all are kind of the guinea pigs on that front. Like Tompkins County getting out ahead on some of the solar lease stuff 12 years ago. It's going to be a lot of these types of leases coming due. We're actually going to see what that process looks like. So I don't have a lot of direct experience, and I don't actually even know of many other communities that have yet had the end of this kind of equipment, like life cycle, come up. So, you know, it'll obviously kind of depend on the terms that Solar Liberty comes up with. But as far as like the functionality of the equipment itself, it's all working like perfectly, essentially. And you wouldn't necessarily expect it to, there's no reason to think that it would like, yeah, drop off in quality more rapidly than, like Roxanne said, probably about maybe 1% or 2% a year. So I'm definitely looking around for some of the lease information. But unfortunately, it kind of comes down to what process the town, and I think it's some county facilities as well. If I find anything that might help sort of navigate that situation, I'll definitely pass it along. But we just haven't seen them, you know what I mean? Like we don't have leases long enough to have really sunset a bunch of them.
Well, we may not be your guinea pig, because when we started looking into the contract with Solar Liberty, there's some irregularities in the contract.
Okay.
180 days from the date in the contract is not December 2025, it's December 2027. So the
I
date,
did it from the, I was
I've been, I've had,
I
yes.
think they did it from what signed the document in 2011.
So it's 180 payments, and so that's the other fun thing is that we're trying to track down those payments, and I was hoping you might have been the bookkeeper back when we started making payments.
Yeah, but
I wasn't here anymore when that started.
Because the dates and the amounts are not lining up, and Solar Liberty thinks we have it on a different amount, so we're having our attorney's reviewing it right now, so we're waiting for feedback on that.
So we
But
might have one more year of the
we-
lease.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But so the point even more being then we need to decide what we're gonna do with this grant, and so. Again, I would like the board to consider, maybe we can have a working meeting with people and Scott and Teresa and think more about it, but. To go forward. And do ground mount now, not wait, not even tie up anything that has to do with the roof leases, because we don't gain anything from that at all. And we gain because we have the space. And it's not interfering with anything else, it's not a trade-off for anything else. For all the length of time that we are figuring out the lease, we're still getting that electricity. Plus, if we install these and just finish the grant off and not drag it out for a really long time, we have that other more electricity, even if in the end, we end up removing the Solar Liberty panels. And then we'll still need to figure out a way to replace them, but this grant can only put, 20 to 24 kilowatts in anyway, so why not put it where it's open right now, get it going and finish the grant, just proceed forward with the grant and then work on this whole complicated Solar Liberty thing as it goes on. So that's what I'm proposing that the board think about doing, and maybe we can work with Chris on a potential proposal and how much storage would be and how much ground mount would cost, and then we could even get it to them get it to the board and then get it to NYSERDA close to March 1st to review, and then we can just move forward and we can probably get it installed, by June 1st, and we'll get 14,000 kilowatt hours more solar. It'll offset our electricity costs. It's, more than $1,000 in what we're paying for electricity. So I'm just.
So I have a question. So we have a system here, we have a system at the town barn. This system, we're not generating enough electricity to support the
Right.
electrical usage within the facility. Town barn, though, we are.
Yeah.
So we're already getting money back from generating more than using. And with 20,
According to those nice thing numbers.
okay, and then, but we're looking at potentially generating 20 kilowatts more
20 to.
that we don't need at the town barn, so it's more.
Well, but it's a remote net meter, so it still can get credited to the town here. So.
oh, so that could offset.
Yeah,
the cost here.
No, it's not site specific, yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
it's our town's account. Yeah, so.
Okay.
No, it goes into paying our town's account electric bill.
we have
Okay.
multiple accounts though.
No, but we checked that, and
Yeah,
Chris is
four.
here, and I asked him, and he checked that, so. That is true.
So
That
is,
right.
so there would be a savings to the town spending the 100,000 to install the 20 kilowatts,
Yeah,
even though we can't use it at the town barn because
Right.
we'll get the credit here.
So Chris, NICEAG will transfer it from the credit from one account to another, because we have different account numbers.
It doesn't seem like
Yes.
that's happening.
That has
so far.
definitely not been happening.
Well,
it should be.
right, well, because so right now the solar that you've got installed is hooked to the building that it's on, but you can install solar generation and have it hooked to basically whatever account number you'd like it to be hooked to. Because the
Can we do that
installation,
now?
possibly, I actually don't know. I've never had that question before. Um,
Cause if we're generating extra.
right, well, when we had it, I mean, I think the reason it's set up the way it is now is because when they did that originally, you weren't allowed to generate more than, I forgot what the percentage is of your total use from solar, so they had it as two separate accounts with the panels on each building. And they made the estimates of how much to install, well, partly what would fit on the town barn roof, more would fit on the, I mean, the town hall roof, more would fit on the town barn roof. And so they just kept it separate. It was just the way it was. We had those accounts anyway, and it wasn't predicted to generate any more than it was using because it couldn't be designed that way at the time, so.
And
they
the,
so-
the load profile at the town hall with the heat pumps is just such that there is a little bit of excess, being generated sort of year over year at the town barn or from the panels on the town barn. So you might be able to sort of realign that, but it would only kind of put a dent in the added electrical at the town hall facility. The town hall is using a lot of power because you've got, the all electric heating and cooling. And then people are in there in sort of different capacities and at different times than they are at the town barn. So you could try and again realign some of the generation, make the credits, but there isn't enough excess generation at the town barn site to zero out your usage at the town barn or the town hall, sorry.
No, and
Yeah.
that's fine, but I just, if we can't take credit for it, then we're putting 20 kilowatts back in, I mean, which for the greater good.
Oh, no, we can.
But I wanna make sure that we then offset it here, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we gotta
And
get the credit for it.
you
because
definitely
we're not
can
using
do
it at the
that.
town barn.
You definitely can do that with, right, so like, if you
Okay.
use the NYSERDA grant to fund new solar at the site at the town barn, on the ground mount site there, and it's a totally new array, when it gets grid tied, you can hook it to an account that's not on site. So that is, right, if you do get that installed, the new ground mount, theoretically, you could hook it to the town hall, so the credits are applied there, even though it's located off site.
So I think, when the town created the DPW, we put Scott in charge of facilities, so Scott needs to review this. And it's gotta have to work in Scott's schedule also in terms of being able to tackle projects. Right now, he's doing the heat pump project with NYSERDA funding. Teresa is picking away at the funding for an electric vehicle. And so I'd like Scott to review this, and this has been a busy season right now for him in terms of winter. So he'll review the presentation. Krista, can you make sure that Scott gets a copy of the presentation also?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I can contact him and meet with him to go through it since I thought he was complete tonight, so.
Well, inclement weather happens.
No, I
in
know,
upstate New
so
York.
I'm just saying that was why I was gonna do it tonight specifically, but I'd like the board to really consider that, and I'm happy to meet with Scott and go through this, so.
And
Yeah,
I
Scott.
know the March date was, thrown out there, but Chris, can you remind us how long we have on the funding? We need to have it all used up by when?
Technically 2028, or 2027. But that's so the town has been awarded the grant, and NYSERDA has communicated that. They've given us, this sort of soft-ish, well, hard-ish March 1st deadline to pick the project, but the town does not yet have a contract with NYSERDA for this funding for this project. So theoretically, it's reserved for us until 2027, but they're going to come knocking for a project determination much sooner than that.
Of course, I just wanted to make sure the board had more timelines
Right.
in mind.
Right.
Excellent.
What is the net cost we're looking at?
Nothing,
Nothing? Okay.
yeah, it's a no match grant.
Okay,
So, I mean, the sooner we do it, if Scott thinks it's acceptable, the sooner we start getting money for nothing. Essentially, we're offsetting our electricity.
so the project's fully funded, you're saying?
Yes.
Provided we spend under 100,000. My
Yeah.
concern going into this year, thinking that we were up in contract in this year, is that we're gonna have to bear the cost of the solar panels, either purchasing or leasing here, and we don't have that budgeted. So that's why I pushed strongly, when the town board talked about this funding, to maintain the flexibility of picking a project, because if it is
Yeah.
due, would have to pay this year, we would be having to pay out of capital reserves, fund balance, in order to handle whatever the solar panel situation is here, short of just letting them take everything.
That was my question.
Yeah,
About
and
fall,
so-
a little bit about the end of lease
And that's exactly it.
negotiations.
what I think it's going to look like is that we have to track down that first payment because it's basically, it appears that the terms of the contract are 180 payments. And so we're trying to track down that one. And unfortunately, we're not using Limes back in the day, right? So,
is that your era?
Yep.
yeah.
But it isn't gonna be in this year anyway, so. This budget year, cause it'll end in September, I mean, in December anyway, even if they don't extend, like it's, the payment was not 2011 for sure, so. Because we didn't even have them until the beginning of 2013, they installed them at the end of 2012, so we didn't have them in 2011, so. If it's 180, we definitely didn't make a payment until later, so it wouldn't be up for another year.
My only point with that is because we haven't budgeted and we don't know how much the cost of purchasing an additional lease or purchasing new panels was. I was trying to be pragmatic with public money, that if we had this money coming in from NYSERDA, the town board could have that information to make the best determination.
Right, but they
And our-
want
I understand, yes.
project way sooner than that, so I'm proposing that we think about this with Scott very strongly, because they definitely want our project sooner than a year or two.
I wasn't suggesting waiting that long.
No.
Initially, we went into this thinking the contract was up at the end of this year, as was in your presentation.
Yeah.
And that's in fact not the case, it seems. So from that, I think that changes the perspective, but I'm waiting for legal feedback. Scott needs to review the presentation, and we have some wiggle room, but I think that we'll be moving forward in some capacity, and you know, stuff's happening. So thank you very much. Any questions before we move on?
Yeah, I think Maddie's question was answered.
Great.
Thank you,
Jerry and
Scott.
Chris, thank you so much for being with us. I don't think we ended
Thanks,
up with
y'all.
bad weather, but I'm glad you don't have to worry about being on the roads.
Right. Yeah. Nice seeing y'all, and yeah, have a good one.
Thank you, you as well.
Thanks, Jared.
Okay, that brings us to the 2024 court audit.
Highway share.
Highway
too.
shared agreement.
Aha, thank you. I didn't write it down. I appreciate that. Chris, do we have a copy of that? So this will be a very simple resolve to approve the 2024 shared services agreement as amended from the organizational meeting on January 9th. So this one reflects the date of when it's in effect, so January 1st. So I'll pass it around so you can see it. That's the big
Is
change.
that just you and Scott that need to sign that?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
Yep.
Also, so I will, there you go. This is, so I will do we did this as a walk on today because we could have waited till next meeting, but it seemed a good idea to just get it finished.
Straightforward enough.
Yeah. The results of the Ulysses Town Board approves the revised shared services highway agreement. That was originally approved at the organizational meeting and amended to reflect December 1st, 2024. And be it further resolved that the Ulysses Town Board authorizes the town supervisor and
I think it's just.
just me, the town supervisor. is fine. Nope, and the highway superintendent. Nope, that's right. Oh, they will eventually sign when they go into agreement. But. So I will move that.
Second.
Any further discussion? Not technical amendment. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Now we can go on, thank you, to the acknowledgement of the town board audit of the justice court. Liz and I conducted the audit of, it's the justice courts, sorry, that was our last year as the justice courts. It'll be courts next year, but we did both courts, Judge Schlee and Judge Dresser's courts, as of we did our audit on January 17th, 2025. Well, let's move it in second and we can discuss. I will move this resolution.
Second.
Thank you. Well, my takeaway is, I think the court is very effective. The courts have been very effectively managed, very professionally. Everything I
Angie does a
hear,
great job.
they do a great job. They're absolutely right.
Yeah.
They do a great job. I think the trend we're seeing, though, that it's important for the public to recognize is that the cost to operate courts goes up with the need for, right, like cost of living adjustment for staff and things like that. But the New York State policies or laws, I should say, New York State laws in reducing or eliminating bail and fines and fees have resulted in a significant revenue decrease for the town. We were over $55,000 in revenue in 2019. And I haven't seen the final number, but we're hovering somewhere around 13,000 for 2024. And it's certainly, the consolidation of the court from 2 justices to 1 has financial benefit to the town. And I think it's an appropriate reflection of the workload. But, we are, when those revenues go down, the cost to maintain the court, which we have to maintain, is passed on to the taxpayer. And so that's another factor that goes into the tax levy. So.
Yeah, I think Judge Drescher and Angie have done a great job. They're organized, and I think we should be lucky that we've got them on our side because they're very organized. They have everything doubly. They each do their own and then they come together. It's very effective.
So, well, there's a motion and a second. Any further comment? Call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
And then, I do not have any board notifications, so I'm jumping ahead. Upcoming meetings, our next regular meeting is February 11th and then another one on the 25th. We'll have that public hearing on the 11th. Start of the meeting. So that brings us, is there any other dates that anybody else wants to bring attention to? In February?
We have a comp plan meeting.
That is right.
Just give me a second.
That,
Forgot what day it was. 8th?
the
5th.
fifth.
Next Wednesday.
I do not want to hang out with you on Saturday, so. Nice, you guys are. The 5th.
5th at 5:30.
Tomorrow is Lunar New Year.
Yep.
For all those who celebrate it. The school is celebrating it by being closed, which I did not believe when my daughter originally told me it should be closed on Friday or Wednesday. But the town is not closed. It is not one of our recognized holidays.
No.
So we shall be open if you need to do anything on Lunar New Year. Okay, that brings us to approval of the minutes for the posted minutes for January 14th, 2025. I have a physical copy here if anybody needs them. I didn't see any changes that were needed, but that was fine with me, but if there was anybody else who needed any amendments. Now's the time. Any changes?
That's good to know.
Okay, I'll move to approve the minutes. Is there a second? Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Rich is gonna be sad to have missed this particular meeting at this point. That brings us full circle back to privilege of the floor. Is there anybody in person who wishes to address the town board?
Well,
Please go ahead, Linda.
I recognize Linda Little.
Sorry, I didn't realize, lost track that we didn't have committee reports at this meeting.
Oh,
Yeah, so, I'm here to tell you what's going on with the water, WSPP committee. And we met last night and getting back on track. We're at this stage that we're wordsmithing the plan. We've got all of the materials pretty much pulled together. We're just trying to make it look coherent and, dot the i's, cross the t's, and work through things. So we're moving right along on that. In addition to that, we have met today with RCAP and New York, the Department of Health folks who are helping us develop a workshop to present in May on septic and water in the town. So we've been working, they're doing it for free, their work, which is nice. So we jumped on it. And hopefully we'll have the plan complete by then. We
expect to have the plan complete by then, but in any event, it's good. What we're working through is some good information to share with the community. So our first step in that process is try to figure out when we want to do that, and we developed a survey that we want to include in the newsletter. And tell folks about, we're just trying to find out when is the best time to do it, and I should have handed this out before. I have a copy of this, it's real simple, a poll to find out. We're going to post it in the newsletter would be one, and then send it to, we have emails for the people that signed up for water testing, additional water testing. And so we're gonna use those addresses to talk to people and ask them what they think would be a good, oh, I'm sorry. Chris.
Were you able to email it to me?
Yeah, I will, yeah, I'll get it to you. We're gonna put,
There's a link. They
Yeah, there's a link to
Marquette
it.
made this and they have a link, so we could just put the link, describe what it is, and you just go straight to it and fill it out.
yeah.
You're looking at May now?
Yeah, that's what they thought worked the best for it both. It's like RCAP and the DOH folks who are mostly in Albany, so that worked the best for both of them.
Yeah. Given other things, I mean, if you have any thoughts about doing it at a different time. It's, kids are still in school, so people will be around, that kind of stuff. You know, we took into account, so we're just gonna ask people what time of day, because we really didn't have a feel for, should we do it on a weekend, should we try to do it on a weeknight, you know? And get people involved. It'll be open to the public in general, not just these people that we're doing, but we're expecting that the folks that had asked for testing would be pretty reliable to give us their 2 cents. What's an appropriate time to go. So if it's okay with you to go ahead and do that. We'd like to get moving on that as well. We're gonna run it through the rest, through February. And then figure out then, after we get the feedback in the beginning of March, and to schedule it.
I wonder if it might be worth including maybe one other sentence after the on-site wastewater treatment systems. It might be really helpful for residents to have an idea of like what actionable thing they'll get out of attending. So it's whether they're, you know what I mean, you'll learn, fill in the blank, or something very specific. So is it them coming and providing you information, or my understanding would be that it's RCAP and the health department providing them information, but maybe if there's a one sentence blurb about what people are gonna get out of it.
Yeah.
That might be useful.
So that's a good idea. That's good.
So they know what they're responding to.
Yeah, right. Okay.
That'd be my only, but sounds great.
Okay.
May's a good month.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing that. That's great.
Do we need to approve this or just?
I paused your timer because you weren't really privileged before.
Did I go over?
I don't know, I just paused it. But I will bounce it online. Is there anybody online who wishes to address the town board?
Yeah, mute Alex.
Hello, how are y'all? Alex Acuna, 5250 Cold Springs Road. Wanted to say hello and check in, just kind of on the status of where the Youth Commission lands with any upcoming projects. There's some vacant land behind our properties, and some of the neighbors have been chattering about potential opportunity for land, that could be potentially positioned for something that the Youth Commission was looking at. And so wondering if there's anything coming up or on the table, and then what that plan and process would look like, forthcoming.
So back in, I want to say July, August, the town was approached with a property owner who was contemplating donating land to the town for recreational purposes. The town board authorized the completion of a survey to determine whether or not the town was interested in pursuing that. That information has not yet been presented to the public. It may in the near future be presented. We don't have a firm date on that yet. But it may be at the first meeting in February, and the town board at that point will be presented with information about a potential donation. And the town board could then, if the town board desired, and it actually doesn't involve the youth commission at all. The youth commission is purely an advisory board that really focuses on primarily youth services related to middle school students. That's primarily the youth commission's role, but the town board is the entity that would consider whether or not it's in the public's best interest to accept a donation. So that was discussed a little bit in the summer, and then that would be a public process. If the town board chooses to go forward with the donation, that's a multi-month process of public review and feedback and environmental review and all sorts of stuff, but that's putting a cart well in front of a horse that is still in the stable. So for a kind of,
And then but so no confirmed plans if you were to accept the donation, correct? It just would be up for public discussion, or does the town board have a vision for what this donation would look like? If they were to receive it.
so there's not even something that's been proposed to donate yet in terms of an actual proposal, in terms of what that would look like there. So the board hasn't even talked about this.
So what's the survey then?
The survey,
land survey.
it's a land survey, but a land survey is information gathering.
So
Just
that's
like
what the stakes are up on behind our property at the moment.
So it has not been publicly announced where the property is located. Obviously, the town is not in a position to say, and in fact, cannot speak on behalf of the town board on this. So I will
Yeah.
simply state that what we have discussed is that the town board had been approached anonymously at this point by an individual who was interested in exploring a donation. No donation has formally been made to the town. When a formal donation is made to the town, if it's made to the town, it will come before the town board and it'll be part of a public process.
And you're anticipating potentially that the survey would become public, part of the agenda in February, potentially.
Potentially, but that's not fixed. The agendas go out, if there's an update on a potential land donation, it would be posted on the agenda packet for our next, and then for the next meeting, that date would be February 7th. The meeting for the 28th would be the 21st. So the board can't take any legal action on accepting any donations without having to go through a public process. So that's not something
Thank
that
you.
can happen
Yeah.
behind closed doors.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Sure. Is there anybody in person who wishes to address the town board? Okay. Is there anybody online? Final call. Anybody online who wishes to address us? Okay, well, thank you so much. It's lovely to see so many people with us this evening. So with that, I will,
Motion to adjourn.
is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah.